Hello, I'm John Flotter. I'm a priest, as you can see, although in my book that I'm going to read the first part of, Dying to Live, I come across not as a priest, and that was intentional because this book is for people with no faith, atheists, people of all religions, and we didn't want to scare away anyone of a different denomination than Catholic or Christian. So I come across in the book as just John Flotter, but as you can see, I am a priest for the last 55 years. And so I'm going to read the foreword or the introduction to the book because it explains where the book came from. And it begins, "This book was not my idea. It came as a suggestion from a friend who proposed a book for people who are nearing the end of life and are wondering what happens after they die. He was thinking especially of people without any religion or belief in God, or at least of people without any active practice of a religion they might have had before. He had in mind people who are getting old and are wondering about life after death. It should answer those questions so many people ask, is there life after death? How do we know? If there is life, what sort of life is it?" That is the idea of this book. But it is not only the elderly who are nearing the end. There are many younger people too, and even very young people who are suffering from a terminal illness and are asking the same questions. And of course, it is not only people without any religious belief. People who have followed some religion, it doesn't matter what religion that might be, usually have some idea of what awaits them. But they may want clearer answers and more certainty about them. So that is how this book came to be. And that is what it proposes to do, to answer those questions about life after death. When my friend came up with the suggestion, I immediately became enthused. After all, I too am nearing the end, as you can see. What is more, I have thought a lot about the matter over the years. I have read books about it, and I have written quite a few articles about it. Plus, I too know a good number of people who are asking those questions and who don't know the answers. The outline of the book is simple. On the assumption that most of the readers do not have any religion or belief in God, the book starts from what we can know by reason alone, to show that there has to be life after death, whether we believe in it or not. Also, using mainly arguments drawn from contemporary findings about the universe, we address the question of whether there is a God whom we might meet on the other side. Remember that the existence of God and the existence of life after death go together. If there's no God, there's no life after death. And for all we know, and we certainly know, the universe wouldn't be here. A key chapter is that on what we have come to be called near-death experiences, where a person has suffered severe trauma, usually with a cardiac arrest, and while unconscious, feels their soul leave the body and go variously through a number of stages. These include the soul hovering above the body and observing what is happening below, going through a tunnel to a bright light and a heavenly experience, seeing their whole life in an instant, and in a few cases, having a hellish experience. All of this points to the existence of various states of life after death. Then for those who say that no one has ever come back from the dead to tell us about it, we look at instances in which people have indeed come back from the dead and have appeared on earth to tell us about it. Since all these experiences are totally consistent with the Christian understanding of life after death, we consider how it is eminently reasonable to examine the Christian view on the question. since it is a very comprehensive body of teaching which has been developed over the last 2,000 years. We then study the principal aspects of life after death from this perspective. Naturally, it is not expected that the reader will be Christian or have any desire to become Christian. And finally, we suggest ways in which the reader, no matter what religious belief they may have, can prepare for their own death with hope and confidence. When all is said and done, the question of life after death is one of the most important questions anyone can ask. It concerns the very purpose and meaning of life. How we come to answer it determines how we live here and hereafter. It can mean the difference between living with fear and dread of what happens when we die, and of looking forward to it with hope and joy. In short, it makes all the difference in the world, and it affects not only our life but the lives of those around us. When I told a friend about the book I was writing, he immediately became enthused. He said that most of the friends with whom he went to school, a Christian school at that, no longer have any religion or belief in God, and some of them are dying from terminal illnesses, quite unprepared for what awaits them. He wanted copies of the book as soon as it was published so that he could give them copies. He then told me the story of his father, whose life was totally transformed by someone who knew where he was going when he died. His father was one of Sydney's leading surgeons and an honorary surgeon at 2 major hospitals. His prestige led him to be named head of a team of medical specialists who were on call whenever a very important person, like the Queen of England or an American president, went to Sydney. Although he was raised a Congregationalist and attended a Church of England school before going to university, this man, his father, had no personal relationship with God. One day in the late 1950s, when he was driving his 3 sons to school, he stopped at a hospital to visit a patient on whom he had recently performed an operation. The man had cancer of the stomach, and he wasn't expected to live long. When the doctor returned to the car after the visit, the boys saw that he was very emotional, something they had never seen in him, and they asked him what had happened. He told them that when he walked into the room, the patient put down his paper and greeted him with a big smile and said, "Doctor, I know it's not normally done, but I want you to be honest with me, and please give me an indication of how long I have to live." The doctor, with some hesitation, told him possibly 6 to 12 weeks, but this could vary depending on the circumstances. The patient then smiled broadly and thanked him, as if relieved by the news. And let us remember, the doctor had said he had 6 to 12 weeks to live, and now the patient is very happy. The doctor was astounded. He had never seen such a reaction to what he considered the equivalent of a death sentence. He was more used to hearing something along the lines of, "If there is a God, please help me and don't let me die." He asked the patient the reason for his joy-filled response, and the answer dumbfounded him. "Well, doctor, I know where I'm going, and now you have given me a timeline so I can get my affairs in order and prepare to meet my Maker." The experience greatly affected the doctor and moved him, along with his wife, to set about growing in their relationship with God. Soon afterwards, they attended a rally conducted by the evangelist Billy Graham, where they committed themselves to Jesus Christ. The doctor became an elder in the Presbyterian Church, and he and his wife began to rise early each morning to read the Bible and have a quiet time of prayer. Their new faith had a lasting impact on their children and on many others as well. So yes, the question of what happens when we die is important. This book proposes to shed light on the question, basing itself on reason, on human experience, and on what God Himself has told us. It is my hope that those who read it will find answers to their own questions, and that they will be able to look towards their own death with hope and peace.